What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video. In today's video, we're going to be covering one of the most important concepts in trading, and it's a concept that I think you can't trade properly without knowing. So you guys maybe have already heard this concept. A lot of traders use it and talk about it, and it's known as liquidity. So we're going to do a very deep dive into what it is, how it works, and by the end of this video, you should have a full understanding of the concept fully. So let's get right into learning about liquidity. So what is liquidity? The best way I can explain liquidity is basically a bunch of orders that are sitting at key highs or key lows. These key highs and lows have a ton of orders sitting behind them because there are a lot of stop losses, a lot of new buy orders, and in general, a lot of large money is looking to enter on these levels. And every single large move that happens in the market needs to have liquidity. So we're not going to see any big moves without picking up orders first. So let's take a look at this chart I have right here. Liquidity is going to be resting at these key lows right here and also up at these key highs right here. And the way I'm looking for these key levels is basically just looking at the most significant pivot high and the most significant pivot low. We'll get more into that as the video goes on, but it's basically just looking for the most clear high and low of the market at that moment. So the way liquidity works is we want to see price come and break below a previous low and then reverse right back up. And on the opposite end, we want to see price break above a recent high and then reverse right back down. So when this happens, this is known as a liquidity sweep, and this is when we will see the most powerful setups in the market. So the way I trade is I combine my liquidity sweeps with things like fair value gaps or lower time frame entry models to find the best possible entries. So in this case, I would wait for price to take out liquidity at this low and then look for a fair value gaps entry. For example, let's say if price had a fair value gap right here, this is where I would look to enter. And also over here, if price takes out the high, then I wait for a fair value gap to form and then I take an entry for a move down. So basically the liquidity sweep gives us the market direction and the fair value gap or anything like that will provide the actual entry itself. So just to be clear one more time, if price breaks above the previous high or the low and it doesn't immediately reverse right back down, that is not going to be a liquidity sweep. It is only valid if we get a break and then it immediately reverses back up or right back down. So now that you guys kind of understand what liquidity is, we're going to take a look at some live examples in the market so you guys can see it a little bit more clearly. So with that said, let's get right into our first example. So to find our liquidity sweeps, the way I personally do it is I go on the higher time frames like the 1 hour, 2 hour, or 4 hour, and that's where I look for my setups, and then I'll drop down to a lower time frame and then look for my entries. So in this case, we are on the 1 hour time frame on NQ, and just right away we want to look for the most significant high and the most significant low of this previous trading session. So in this case, our most significant high is all the way up here because this is the highest point of the previous trading sessions, and our most significant low is all the way down here from the previous trading sessions again. So again, all I do is I wait for price to come and either take out this high or this low, and in this case we came and took out this low. So what this tells me is that the market now wants to move higher and it does not want to continue dropping anymore. So I'm only going to look for setups for price to move higher. So now that on the 1 hour time frame I figured out what direction the market wants to move, we're going to drop down to a lower time frame and look for a fair value gap entry or any entry model of that sort to take a position. So let's go ahead and drop down to a lower time frame. So here we are on the 3-minute time frame, and just to be clear, you guys can use any time frame from the 1 minute all the way up to the 15-minute time frame for finding your entry model. So in this case, on the 3-minute, I see a very nice balanced price range, which is when two fair value gaps are overlapping each other. So I'm good to take my entry on this trade setup right here with a stop loss right under the low of the middle candle. And now let's get into the second part of using liquidity. The way I find my targets on these trades is I look for the next significant high on the lower time frame. So in this case, we can see the most significant high is all the way up here. So this is where my target for this trade is going to be. So the trade setup looks something like this. We have a stop loss below the fair value gap and we have our target at this most significant high. So let's go ahead and play this setup out and see exactly what happens. So we get a very nice move right back up to that target just from using that liquidity and our lower time frame entry model. Now, one thing I do want to show you guys is that a lot of traders might see this fair value gap right here and they try to short. But since you're able to understand what direction the market wants to move by using liquidity, you're able to avoid those losses and find much more clear setups. So this right here is a perfect trade, but we're going to take a look at some more examples so you guys can see it even more clearly. So here we are again on the 1 hour time frame, and very simply all I'm marking out is the most significant high, which in this case is all the way up here, and I'm also marking out the most significant low on this setup. So again, all I do is I wait for price to either take out the high or the low on this setup, and once it does, that's when I understand my market direction. So in this situation, price came and took out the high and immediately reversed right back down. So now I understand that price wants to move lower to the next level of liquidity. So we've got our 1 hour time frame setup all good to go. Now we're going to drop down to the lower time frame and look for a potential setup setup to take an entry on. So here we are on the 5-minute time frame this time, and as you can see, that's our liquidity sweep right there from the higher time frame. And here we have multiple great setups. In this situation, you had a very nice fair value gap right there, and you also have a very nice one right here. So we're gonna wait for price to retrace back into the fair value gap, and then we're gonna look for a move to the next level of liquidity. So here we are right here, price enters back into the fair value gap, so we're gonna take an entry on this trade right here. Again, stop loss goes right at the high of the middle candle, and we're gonna target the next level of liquidity, which in this case is right over here. But if you want to be even more extreme and a little bit riskier, you can go for that level from the 1-hour time frame. So now that we have our 1-hour liquidity level and we also have the lower time frame entry model, this is a perfect setup, and now we need to see how it plays out. So let's go ahead and see exactly what happens for this trade. So again, we get a very nice move down to this low right here, and an even better move down to this 1-hour time frame low as well. So that's another perfect setup right there that works by combining liquidity and a lower time frame entry model. So by now it should be very clear how liquidity works, but we're going to take a look at one more example to kind of give you a better understanding. So here we are on the 1-hour time frame once again, and very simply I'm just going to mark out the most significant high from the previous trading session, which is right over here, and the most significant low, which is down here. So again, all we do is we wait for price to take out either the high or the low and reverse right back down, and in this situation that's exactly what happens. We have price take out the high and we get an immediate reversal right back down. Now there is one thing I forgot to mention. You need to make sure that the candle actually closes before you can call it a liquidity sweep. So we're not going to be calling it a liquidity sweep mid candle. We need to actually wait for that 1-hour candle to close, and then we can call it a liquidity sweep. So again, the 1-hour candle closes, confirming our liquidity sweep, and now we're going to drop down to the lower time frame and look for an entry model to take a trade on. So here we are on the 5-minute time frame once again, and right over here we have another beautiful balanced price range setup. So in this situation, all I'm doing is waiting for price to reverse back into this balanced price range, and I'll look to take an entry for a move back down. So after some time, we get that move into the balanced price range, and now this is my perfect setup to take an entry on for a move lower. So we'll take our entry on this candle with a stop loss again right above the high of the middle candle, and for our target we're going to look for the next significant low, which in this case is right over here. Or again, if you want to be way more extreme and riskier, you go for the next level on the 1-hour time frame. So everything on this setup is perfect, and the only thing left to do is let it play out. So let's go ahead and see exactly what happens on this trade. So we get a very nice move down to this low, and we also get a move down to that 1-hour time frame low. So both of those levels end up respecting very well. So hopefully you guys understand how powerful liquidity actually is, and you guys definitely need to add this to your trading arsenal, because I personally think you can't trade without it, and it is something that's definitely changed my trading for the better, and a lot of traders that I personally know as well. So hopefully it helps you guys trade a lot better. So again, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will be making more videos on more of these important concepts in trading. And if there is any specific video you guys want to see, make sure to drop it down in the comments section below, and I will make a video on it very soon.